Hello and welcome to Business Week, bringing you business news, features and market analysis across Africa. I am William Dada. As West Africa explores ways of ensuring sustainable energy for its citizens, the West African Clean Energy Conference, which held during the week in Accra, Ghana, provided a platform for an assessment of developments in the region's renewable energy and environment industry. Our correspondent in Ghana, Eunice Ejare Ochere, reports.
Out of the 54 African nations, the World Bank has declared 25 to be in energy crisis. Energy development has not kept pace with rising demand in developing regions, placing a large strain on the continent's existing resources. Annual consumption of power in sub-Saharan Africa is pegged at 518 kilowatts per hour. Ghana, like several countries in the sub-region, has for years depended on hydro and thermal energy for its power. But this is so inadequate to serve the growing population. Maybe this is the time to consider other sources like renewable energy. In Ghana, solar energy seems to have great potential, but patronage on the national level needs some boosting.
Renewables is definitely an option. You know, in 2011, the government came up with a renewable energy bill, and the key amongst some of the provisions of this bill was to provide for an infusion of renewable energy into the total energy mix of Ghana. And because solar is the most abundant of all the renewable, at least sources in Ghana, we as a company believe that that is where we should be focusing attention on.
There's a clear link between availability and stability of power in a country and economic growth.
Thank you very much.
The exploration of renewable energy is recommended to countries that still grapple with access to power.
The global economy must become more sustainable. And the growing energy needs for rapidly developing countries like Ghana cannot be covered by fossil fuels alone. We have to use more sources for our energy supply: solar, wind, biomass, recycling of waste. These are the solutions of the future.
The West African Clean Energy Conference and exhibition focuses on environmental protection, waste management and renewable energy development in the private and public sectors in West Africa.
Ghana's Minister of Agriculture has advised the government in sub-Saharan Africa to pay attention to agriculture as a way of fighting poverty. He made the call while delivering a lecture on leadership and the challenge of ultra-poverty in Lagos, Nigeria. Correspondent Effiong Ekap has more.
The 12th annual lecture organized in Lagos by the Center for Values and Leadership discussed leadership and the challenge of ultra-poverty.
And the ultra-poor are so deep necessarily in the challenges of being that if you give them a loan to use to improve their life, they will immediately use that money to take care of this moment, and the purpose of that loan will be lost. And so the BRAC strategy is to give them assets rather than something as fungible as money, which they will use for immediate survival.
Ghana's Minister of Food and Agriculture explained that investment in agriculture holds the key to lifting sub-Saharan Africans from misery, hunger and poverty.
And the above account paints a rather gloomy and almost hopeless picture of poverty and hunger. But the situation is far from hopeless. But for Africa to reverse the trend and start a journey towards a golden destiny, Africa must soon turn to a game changer. And it is a massive surprise that a continent with such vast agricultural potential continues to be the home of millions of hungry and poor people. Africa's agriculture holds the key, not just to the eradication of hunger, but also to the vanquishing of poverty.
Working with statistics, U.S. Congressman Jerry Waller paid attention particularly to the Nigerian situation. He noted that over 60% of Nigerians lived below poverty line.
60% of Nigeria's population lives at or below the poverty line of less than 250 naira a day, less than $1.25 in the US a day. Malnutrition is the underlying cause of death and disease for Nigeria's children. Half of those under the age of 5 who die.
Speakers listed Africa's agric resources to include large but uncultivatable lands, good climate, and a large market. They also emphasized that small-scale farmers should hold their businesses as commercial ventures.
Economic observers are dissatisfied with the audit findings of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC's missing $20 billion. They say their suspicions can only be put to rest if the entire report, as presented by the consultant, is made public. Lara Monijo has details.
Nigeria's Auditor General making public findings of a forensic audit carried out on the country's missing oil revenue. His presentation indicts the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, to the tune of at least $1.48 billion. But many believe the NNPC is more indebted to the country than was publicized. They say the drama which characterized the missing funds before the audit is more than enough evidence.
The African Union, under Tambo Mbeki Investigative Panel, says Nigeria loses 14.9 billion every year, dollars. And the former Central Bank of Nigeria, Soludo, said, under Nkojo Iweala, we have lost 30 trillion naira in the last 3 years. All of these people know money more than Jonathan. But what Jonathan is telling Nigerians is that this money are too heavy to be.
Anti-corruption campaigners feel the consultant's absence for questioning by the media at the report's presentation leaves a lot to be desired.
We know that there are things to hide. We study it in details and we come up, we still call on you and report and tell you about our findings on that report. But one thing I can assure you is that the issue of missing billions will not be swept under the carpet.
There is no political will to fight corruptions because we have cases of 2.3 trillion naira subsidy thieves. And those issues are still there lying down. And I'm not sure those issues even reflected in this so-called forensic audit.
The consultants recommended a restructuring of the NNPC. Observers feel this advice is not new, but see it as a needed change which requires the authorities' political will.
NITI have recommended this. It's also the reason why we have the petroleum industry bill before the National Assembly. Exploration should be different from production. Production should also be different from marketing. But that's about the structure. The internal governance of the NNPC itself also needs to be reformed.
These observers are not just concerned that the report took too long to be released. They as well see its unveiling so close to elections as an attempt at image laundering by government. They ask that the report in its entirety be made available for public scrutiny if the authorities really have nothing to hide.
The first phase of the $475 million Chinese-funded Addis Ababa Light Railway in the Ethiopian capital has been completed, with its first test runs proving to be a success. As our East Africa correspondent Ken Kariri reports, the project is expected to officially open to traffic in May.
Out of the dust and rubble of soaring slabs of concrete and steel, Ethiopia's ambitious 5-year growth and transformation plan is finally paying off, with its mushrooming capital Addis Ababa set to pop up Africa's first light rail system. Built by China's Rail Engineering Corporation, the $475 million electrified rail is one of the many projects Ethiopia is embarking on, thanks to its commitment to develop its infrastructure. Project manager Behailo Sentiyahu says testing of the metro system is already in progress.
The movement of the rolling stock has already been started using a temporary power supply, and in the upcoming weeks, different public peoples will be enjoying and exercising, experiencing using the LRT, not for commercial purpose, just for introduction purpose.
Stretching for a combined 32 kilometers, 2 lines dividing Addis Ababa north-south and east-west, it is expected to serve 39 stations in underground and overground sections, and is an impressive sign of Ethiopia's progress since the dark days of famine and military rule in the 1980s.
Now, Ethiopia is one of Africa's fastest growing economies and has been expanding by an annual growth rate of about 9% every year. It is expected that once this project is complete, then it's going to transform the lives of the more than 5 million people who live here in Addis Ababa.
The railway includes 2 lines that cross at Moscow Square, an iconic open space at the city's center, and is expected to carry 7,500 passengers daily. Government officials say once complete, the railway will significantly ease traffic congestion and boost the country's economy.
And the government of Ethiopia came to decide to build this light rail transit project to solve the transportation problem, mainly on the main corridors, arterial corridors of the city.
The Horn of Africa country is also building a new rail link to neighboring Djibouti and wants to complete 5,000 kilometers of railway lines by the year 2020.
Business Week returns after this break. Stay with us.